Cossack Mercenaries, History Present and Future. Introduction. The Cossacks, a group of predominantly East Slavic people, have a rich history intertwined with military service and cultural identity. Originating in the Pontic Caspian steppe, mainly in eastern Ukraine and southern Russia, the Cossacks emerged as a semi-nomadic and militarized society during the late medieval period. Their evolution from a loose federation of free warriors to distinct military and cultural entities marks a significant chapter in Eastern European history. This report explores the historical trajectory, current status, and future implications of Cossack mercenaries. Historical overview. Origins and formation, 14th to 16th centuries. The origins of the Cossacks are debated among historians. Many agree that they emerged from a mix of escaped serfs, runaway peasants, and various ethnic groups including Tatars and Turks. By the 14th century, Cossacks began forming self-governing communities in the sparsely populated regions along the Dnieper and Don rivers. The 16th century saw the consolidation of two prominent groups, the Zaporozhian Cossacks and the Don Cossacks. The Zaporozhian Cossacks, operating primarily under the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, established a significant degree of autonomy. They were renowned for their naval skills, utilizing small maneuverable galleys known as cheki to conduct raids against the Ottoman Empire and its vassals, significantly impacting regional geopolitics. The Cossack Hetmanate and Russian influence, 17th century. The Khmelnytsky Uprising of 1648 marked a pivotal moment for the Cossacks as they sought independence from Polish rule. The subsequent Treaty of Pereyaslav in 1654 brought the Cossack Hetmanate under Russian protection, but gradually led to the erosion of their autonomy. By the late 18th century, under Catherine the Great, many Cossack hosts were disbanded, and their traditional privileges were curtailed. The 20th century, wars and repression. In the early 20th century, Cossacks found themselves divided during the Russian Civil War, with some supporting the White Army while others sided with the Bolsheviks. The Soviet regime's decossakization policies led to widespread persecution, including executions and forced migrations. Despite this, many Cossacks served in various capacities during World War II, with some collaborating with Nazi Germany while others fought for the Soviet Union. Current status of Cossacks. Revival in modern Russia and Ukraine. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 sparked a revival of Cossack identity and traditions in both Russia and Ukraine. In Russia, numerous Cossack organizations have been re-established, actively participating in local governance, cultural preservation, and even military functions. The 2002 Russian census indicated that between 140,000 and 500,000 individuals identified as Cossacks, with estimates of 3.5 to 5 million globally. In Ukraine, Cossack symbols and history have been embraced as part of national identity. Various Cossack groups have emerged, focusing on cultural revival and heritage preservation. Role in contemporary conflicts. Cossacks have been active participants in various conflicts in the post-Soviet space, including the war in Donbass and the recent escalation of tensions between Ukraine and Russia. Their involvement is often marked by a complex interplay of loyalty, identity, and historical grievances. Future implications. Cultural identity and political influence. The future of Cossack mercenaries will likely revolve around their cultural identity and political influence within Russia and Ukraine. As both nations navigate their post-Soviet identities, the Cossacks may play a role in shaping narratives around nationalism and regional autonomy. Their historical legacy as warriors and defenders of the steppe continues to resonate, and their contributions to local governance and law enforcement could further solidify their status. Mercenary trends and international dynamics. In an era of increasing privatization of military services, the concept of Cossack mercenaries could evolve. With a history rooted in military service, Cossacks might find new roles within contemporary mercenary frameworks, potentially engaging in conflicts beyond their traditional territories. This shift could raise questions about their allegiance and the implications for international relations, especially in the context of Russian foreign policy. Conclusion: the Cossacks embody a rich tapestry of history, culture, and military tradition. From their origins in the steppes of Eastern Europe to their contemporary status as cultural symbols and active participants in modern conflicts, Cossack mercenaries have adapted to changing times while maintaining a distinct identity. As they navigate the complexities of the 21st century, the future of the Cossacks will likely reflect broader trends in nationalism, military privatization, and cultural revival in post-Soviet spaces. Their story is one of resilience, adaptability, and enduring significance in the historical and cultural landscape of Eastern Europe. The Cossack mercenaries have played a significant role throughout history, with their influence extending into the present and potentially shaping the future. The Cossacks are predominantly East Slavic Eastern Orthodox people who originated in the Pontic Caspian steppe encompassing parts of modern-day Ukraine and southern Russia. Their identity is deeply intertwined with military tradition, having historically functioned as semi-nomadic warriors who exchanged military service for autonomy and governance rights. Historical overview: the emergence of the Cossacks can be traced back to the 14th and 15th centuries, when they began to form as a distinct group primarily consisting of runaway serfs in various ethnicities including Slavs and Turks. By the 16th century, two major Cossack factions had formed, the Zaporozhian Cossacks and the Don Cossacks. The Zaporozhian Cossacks, based around the Dnieper River, established significant autonomy and became prominent in conflicts against the Ottoman Empire and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, while the Don Cossacks were critical in defending the Russian Empire's southern borders. The Cossacks gained considerable prominence during the Khmelnytsky Uprising in the 17th century, which led to their incorporation into the Russian state under the Treaty of Pereyaslav in 1654. This treaty, however, marked the beginning of a gradual erosion of their autonomy, particularly during the reign of Catherine the Great in the 18th century, when many traditional Cossack structures were dismantled and their power curtailed. The 20th century brought further upheaval, with the Cossacks splitting during the Russian Civil War, aligning either with the White Army or the Red Army. Following the Civil War, the Soviet regime implemented a policy of decossakization which aimed to suppress Cossack identity and autonomy, leading to widespread persecution. Many Cossacks who had collaborated with the Nazis during World War II faced harsh reprisals post-war. Present state: in the 21st century, Cossack identity has experienced a revival in both Russia and Ukraine, though it remains a contentious issue. Cossack organizations have been re-established and many individuals identify as Cossacks, reflecting a complex interplay of cultural heritage, nationalism, and military tradition. Estimates suggest that between 3.5 to 5 million people worldwide identify with Cossack heritage, although many may lack direct ancestral ties to the historical Cossack communities. Modern Cossack roles: today, Cossacks actively participate in various conflicts, notably in Ukraine, where some have been involved in the ongoing tensions and battles in the eastern regions. Their involvement reflects the continuing legacy of Cossack military tradition, but also highlights the fluidity of their identity as they navigate the contemporary political landscape. Interestingly, the perception of Cossacks has shifted. They are seen by some as symbols of resistance and autonomy, while others view them as agents of oppression due to their historical role in suppressing uprisings and their association with nationalist movements. The duality of their image encapsulates the broader complexities surrounding national identity, ethnic heritage, and memory politics in post-Soviet states. Counterintuitive points: 1. Cossacks as agents of oppression versus freedom fighters. While Cossacks are often romanticized as heroic defenders of freedom and autonomy, their historical role also includes significant involvement in the suppression of uprisings and violence against various ethnic groups, complicating their legacy. 2. Cultural identity versus ethnic heritage. Many individuals who identify as Cossacks today may not have direct ancestral ties to the historical Cossack communities, challenging traditional notions of ethnic identity and prompting discussions about cultural appropriation and the authenticity of modern Cossack identities. 3. Modern military roles. Contrary to the expectation that traditional military roles would diminish in the modern world, Cossacks continue to serve in paramilitary capacities often aligned with state interests, reflecting a resurgence of their historical military function in contemporary society. 4. Revival in a post-Soviet context. The revival of Cossack identity in post-Soviet states, particularly Russia and Ukraine, contrasts with the Soviet-era policies of suppression, highlighting how historical narratives can shift dramatically in response to changing political climates. 5. Cossack participation in conflicts. The active participation of Cossacks in modern conflicts, including those in Ukraine, underscores the persistent relevance of their martial heritage and raises questions about the implications of such involvement for national unity and identity in the region. Overall, the history and identity of the Cossacks present a rich tapestry of cultural heritage, military tradition, and complex social dynamics that continue to evolve in the modern context. Their future role will likely depend on how contemporary societies navigate the challenges of identity, memory, and historical legacy. Overlooked aspects of Cossack history, present and future. While the extensive history of the Cossacks as detailed in various reports covers their military prowess, cultural identity, and significant historical events, several nuanced aspects may be overlooked yet are pivotal in understanding their relevance today and in the future. 1. Cossack identity and ethnicity. Many discussions about the Cossacks often focus on their military history, yet the complexities of their identity are frequently glossed over. Cossacks are not a monolithic group. Their identity is interwoven with various ethnicities, including Slavic, Turkic, and local indigenous populations. This amalgamation creates a rich cultural tapestry, yet leads to competing narratives about their origins. The debate about whether they should primarily be seen as Ukrainian or Russian entities continues to fuel tensions in contemporary geopolitical contexts, particularly in light of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Understanding these underlying ethnic dynamics is crucial for grasping current tensions and identities. 2. Cossack autonomy and governance. The governance structures within Cossack communities, such as the role of the Ataman and the Assembly Rada, provide insights into their political autonomy. While often portrayed as a military force, Cossack communities practiced forms of self-governance that included communal decision-making and local governance long before modern democratic practices were conceptualized. This historical context of self-administration is significant as it reflects the Cossacks' long-standing traditions of autonomy and resistance to centralized power, which resonates today in their struggle for recognition and rights within contemporary nation-states. 3. Cossacks in the context of European history. The Cossacks' role in broader European conflicts, particularly during the 17th and 18th centuries, is often underappreciated. They were not just participants in local skirmishes but played significant roles in major conflicts such as the 30 Years' War and the Great Northern War. Their alliances and enmities with various powers, including the Ottoman Empire, Poland, Lithuania, and Russia, shaped the geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. This historical significance positions them as vital players in the narrative of European history, often overshadowed by larger empires. 4. Impact of Soviet policies on Cossack culture. The Soviet policies of decossakization and collectivization had profound effects on Cossack culture and identity, leading to loss of autonomy, suppression of traditions, and demographic changes due to forced migrations. These policies sought to eliminate Cossack identity as a potential threat to Soviet authority. The long-term impact of these policies on cultural memory and identity continues to affect Cossack communities today. The revival of Cossack identity in post-Soviet states is often accompanied by a struggle against this historical suppression, which can be overlooked in discussions focused solely on contemporary manifestations of Cossack identity. 5. Current Cossack involvement in conflicts. Today, Cossacks are active participants in various conflicts, notably in Ukraine and the Caucasus. However, their involvement is multifaceted and often misunderstood. While some Cossacks may align with nationalist or separatist movements, others advocate for peace and reconciliation. This division complicates the perception of Cossacks as merely militaristic actors. Understanding their diverse roles, motivations, and internal divisions is critical for analyzing their contemporary relevance and influence in regional politics. 6. Cossack cultural heritage. The cultural heritage of the Cossacks, including their music, dances, and folklore, is a significant aspect of their identity that is often overshadowed by military narratives. This rich cultural tradition not only reflects their historical experiences but also serves as a means of resilience and community bonding. The revival of Cossack cultural practices in post-Soviet states underscores the importance of cultural identity in maintaining group solidarity and serves as a counter-narrative to the historical suppression they faced. 7. The future of Cossack communities. The future of Cossack communities is a critical area that requires attention. With the rise of nationalism and ethnic identity politics in Eastern Europe, Cossack communities are at a crossroads. They can either become a bridge between different ethnic groups or allow historical grievances to foster division. The decisions made by contemporary Cossack leaders and communities in response to these challenges will shape their future role in society, emphasizing the need for inclusive dialogues that respect their historical significance and cultural diversity. Conclusion. The history, present, and future of the Cossacks encompass much more than their military exploits. The overlooked aspects of their identity, governance, cultural heritage, and contemporary roles highlight the complexities of Cossack communities. Acknowledging these facets is essential for a comprehensive understanding of their significance in both historical and current contexts, as well as their potential future trajectory in an ever-evolving geopolitical landscape. 1. Historical evolution and cultural identity. The Cossacks have a complex historical evolution that reflects their transformation from a loosely organized military society in the 14th century to a recognized ethnic group with distinct cultural practices. This evolution is marked by significant events such as the Khmelnytsky Uprising, which led to the establishment of the Cossack Hetmanate under Russian suzerainty. The Cossacks' identity has been shaped by their military roles, serving various powers like the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Russian Empire, and even Nazi Germany during World War II. Their cultural practices, governance structures such as the elected ataman, and social customs have contributed to a unique identity that persists today. 2. Political dynamics and autonomy. The Cossacks' relationship with surrounding powers, particularly Poland and Russia, highlights the tension between their quest for autonomy and external control. Initially, they were granted significant autonomy in exchange for military service, but this autonomy was gradually eroded, especially during the reign of Catherine II. The policy of decossacization after the Russian Civil War aimed to dismantle their social structures and suppress their identity. This struggle for autonomy continues to influence Cossack communities today, especially in the context of modern geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine. 3. Contemporary relevance and revival. In the 21st century, there has been a revival of Cossack identity, particularly in Russia and Ukraine. This revival is marked by the establishment of various Cossack organizations that engage in cultural preservation, politics, and even military functions. The resurgence of Cossack identity is closely tied to nationalistic movements, with Cossacks often participating in modern conflicts such as the war in Donbass and the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. This contemporary relevance raises questions about the implications of their involvement in these conflicts and their role in shaping national identity in both Russia and Ukraine. 4. Cossack mercenaries and future prospects. The historical use of Cossacks as mercenaries and their current participation in various conflicts emphasize their military significance. The Cossacks have been involved in a range of military conflicts, from the wars of the Russian Empire to modern engagements. Their reputation as skilled cavalry and fighters has led to their recruitment in both state and non-state military operations. The future of Cossack mercenaries will likely depend on the geopolitical landscape in Eastern Europe and the evolving nature of warfare, which may see a continued role for non-traditional military forces like the Cossacks in regional conflicts. 1. The Janissaries of the Ottoman Empire. The Janissaries were elite infantry units that formed the backbone of the Ottoman Empire's military. Established in the late 14th century, they were originally composed of Christian boys taken from their families through the Devshirme system, converted to Islam and trained as soldiers. Over time they became a powerful political force, often intervening in the empire's politics much like the Cossacks did in Russian and Ukrainian affairs. The Janissaries enjoyed a unique status, receiving privileges in exchange for their loyalty and military service to the Sultan. However, as the empire weakened and modernization efforts increased, they resisted reforms, leading to their eventual disbandment in the early 19th century. 2. The Swiss Guard in Renaissance Europe. The Swiss Guard served as mercenary soldiers renowned for their combat skills and loyalty during the Renaissance. Initially formed in the late 15th century, they provided military service to various European monarchs, including the Pope. Like the Cossacks, the Swiss Guard operated independently, often wielding significant political influence due to their military prowess. Their unique status as a military group, combined with their willingness to serve different states while maintaining a distinct identity, parallels the Cossacks' history of service to different powers and their struggle for autonomy. 3. The Free Corps during the Napoleonic Wars. These were irregular military units formed from volunteers in various European countries who resisted the Napoleonic occupation. Similar to the Cossacks, the Free Corps often consisted of local populations who took up arms for their autonomy and national identity. They engaged in guerrilla warfare and played a significant role in the wider conflicts of the time, reflecting the Cossacks' historical role as irregular fighters in the defense of their territories against foreign domination. The legacy of the Free Corps influenced later nationalist movements and military formations in Europe. Future outlook: Cossack mercenaries of history, present and future. Introduction. The Cossacks, a unique socio-ethnic group with a storied past, have evolved from semi-nomadic warriors to complex contributors to modern geopolitics. Their historical role as mercenaries and military leaders in Eastern Europe, particularly in Russia and Ukraine, is well documented. As we analyze their modern status and predict their futures, several factors must be considered: the revival of Cossack identity, ongoing geopolitical tensions, and the interplay of nationalism and cultural heritage. Current status of Cossacks. Today, Cossacks exist as a diverse group in Russia, Ukraine, and beyond, numbering between 3.5 to 5 million globally. Their identity has seen a resurgence post-Soviet Union, with numerous organizations advocating for cultural revival, local governance, and even military service. In Russia, the Cossacks are recognized as a paramilitary force involved in local law enforcement and regional governance. In Ukraine, they are often viewed as symbols of national identity and resistance, particularly in the context of recent conflicts. Predictive scenarios for the future. 1. Continued cultural revival and political influence. As global dynamics shift, Cossack organizations may increasingly leverage their historical narratives to influence local and national policies in both Russia and Ukraine. This could manifest through cultural festivals, educational programs, and political lobbying, reinforcing their significance in national identity discussions. The rise of nationalism in both countries may favor Cossack groups as they align with broader movements aimed at asserting regional identities. 2. Involvement in geopolitical conflicts. Given their historical role as mercenaries and their current military ties, Cossack groups may continue to play a significant role in regional conflicts. For instance, ongoing tensions between Russia and Ukraine could see Cossack units mobilized in localized conflicts, particularly in areas with significant Cossack populations. Their involvement in conflicts, whether as part of formal military units or independent mercenary groups, could complicate peace efforts and exacerbate ethnic tensions. 3. Reintegration into modern militaries. In Russia, there may be a push to integrate Cossack units more formally into the military structure, allowing for a blend of traditional tactics with modern warfare techniques. This could enhance the capabilities of Russian forces, particularly in hybrid warfare scenarios. where traditional military engagements blend with irregular operations. The state may promote Cossack units as elite forces, drawing on their historical reputation for bravery and tactical ingenuity. 4. Cossack identity and global diaspora. The global Cossack diaspora, particularly in North America and Europe, may galvanize efforts to create a unified Cossack identity that transcends national borders. This could lead to the establishment of international Cossack organizations that focus on preserving cultural heritage, promoting unity, and advocating for the rights of Cossacks worldwide. Such movements could receive support from local governments interested in cultural diversity and heritage preservation. 5. Cultural diplomacy and heritage tourism. As nations increasingly recognize the value of cultural heritage, Cossack traditions could be leveraged for heritage tourism. Events celebrating Cossack history, music, dance, and martial arts could attract tourists, providing economic benefits to local communities. This cultural diplomacy could also serve to foster dialogue between Russia and Ukraine, potentially easing historical grievances through shared cultural experiences. 6. Digital and social media influence. The rise of social media platforms could enable Cossack groups to share their narratives and cultural practices, widely reaching younger generations and fostering a new sense of identity. Digital platforms may serve as tools for organizing events, sharing educational content, and advocating for Cossack rights, thus providing a voice to younger Cossacks who may feel disconnected from traditional structures. 7. Potential for conflict and division. However, the future is not without risks. Internal divisions between various Cossack groups, especially regarding political affiliations or loyalty to different states, could lead to fragmentation. In Ukraine, for instance, differing views on national identity could pit Cossack factions against each other, particularly in the context of ongoing Russian influence in eastern Ukraine. 8. Responses to global trends. The Cossacks will also need to adapt to global trends such as migration, climate change, and economic shifts. Their historical adaptability could serve them well, allowing for new forms of economic activity such as agriculture and artisanal crafts, which could help sustain their communities in changing environments. Conclusion. The future of the Cossacks as both a cultural identity and a socio-political force is poised at a crossroads. The interplay between historical legacy and modern challenges will shape their trajectory. With potential for significant cultural revival, involvement in geopolitical conflicts, and a renewed focus on heritage, the Cossacks are likely to remain a salient element in the tapestry of Eastern European identity. Their ability to navigate these complexities will determine their role in the 21st century and beyond.